Hey guys, it's me Seren back with another video. This video is going to be about the Sleepy Hollow season finale that came on last Friday, or this past Friday. It's the new week, so whatever. There are going to be spoilers. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! If you haven't seen it, if you haven't heard about it, which will shock me because a lot of people have been talking about it, and you watch Sleepy Hollow and you don't want to know, spoiler, 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 spoiler. That's my flashing lights. Spoiler alert. So, in the season finale, possibly series finale, we don't really know yet, of Sleepy Hollow, Nicole Behari, I hope I'm saying that right, her character, Abby Mills, is killed off. So, Abby Mills was one of the leads of the show. It was her and Ichabod Crane. There were two leads, and they killed her. And people were shocked because people are like, who kills their lead? So there's backstory on this, right? So a lot of people have been saying that, oh, Nicole just wanted to leave. That's been like the number one most common thing I see from these fucking stands that are in 100% denial because they're probably racist. Oh, well, she wanted to leave. She wanted to leave. She wanted to leave. What did you expect? What do you expect? She wanted to leave. They had to get rid of her. Number one, Shamar Moore wanted to leave Criminal Minds. So they wrote him off. They gave him a nice little story about wanting to spend more time with his wife and his kid. He'd come back in the future if he wants to. First of all, you can go about writing somebody off a show without killing them, right? Without murdering them. That's number one. Two, people love to say, well, she wanted to leave, but they don't want to talk about why she wanted to leave. Oh, she just wanted to leave and they want to leave it at that. No, there's cause and effect. And that's the number one thing that I see, especially racists, they love to do. They love to talk about effect, but they do not like to talk about cause, because 9 times out of 10, the cause that leads to the effect is some racist bullshit. They don't want to talk about that. Nicole Behari was very, very vocal about her mistreatment on the show, as was Orlando Jones, who also used to be on Sleepy Hollow and was asked to leave after he was also very vocal about the mistreatment of the black people on that show, the mistreatment of the people of color on that show. John Cho was on there, Amanda Steinberg was on there for a while, and what people loved about season 1 of Sleepy Hollow was it had this really interesting, unique story, and it had this really, really diverse cast. Season 1 had more POC, not just black people, but POC as a whole, than white people on the cast. And then after season 1 was a hit, and they got this huge devoted fan base, and they were getting these out of control ratings, they slowly sidelined and straight up got rid of the black characters, the East Asian characters, the people of color on the show, to bring on more white characters. Katrina, who I don't even know. And I haven't seen every single episode of Sleepy Hollow. I watched it kind of sporadically. I've caught episodes here and there, but everyone says pretty much that the first season was amazing. The second season went off the rails completely because, again, they sidelined what people loved, the relationship between Abby, who's a black woman, and Ichabod Crane, who is, if you know, the legend of Sleepy Hollow, you should have an idea who Ichabod Crane is. And they kind of just put a twist on the whole Headless Horseman thing, and they ended up with these two leads that had this really amazing chemistry. And they ended up with this black female lead on a genre show, speculative fiction, which is not something you see very often, which I will be making a video where I go more in depth on that, on women of color and black women specifically in speculative fiction leads, because I have some things I want to say about the Wonder Woman pictures that came out, if not last week, the week before, so I'm going to be doing a video on that, but I'm not really going to go too in depth in this video, even though that is a huge part of it, not seeing black women represented in genre, in speculative fiction, in sci-fi, in fantasy, and kind of like I talked about in my Mad Max, people love to talk about, feminism and this and that, Jessica Jones, fucking bullshit, but then they don't have any black women, and they don't have any women of color, period, but then they say oh, well, it's feminist, and it's diverse, and it's this, and it's that, and it's no, but you're still sending the message that we don't belong in genre. So people felt like Abby Mills, they really could relate to the Abby Mills character. They loved her. And then after the first season, which again was a huge hit with this diverse cast, and they were always talking about how their cast is so diverse and diversity, diversity, diversity. Their showrunners left to do new shows. Their two main showrunners left. And then they brought in pretty much a brand new writing team. And then you started to see these changes where the diverse cast was moved out to bring in these white characters, to bring in Katrina, who was this white witch, Ichabod's wife, damsel in distress. They separated Ichabod and Abby, even though people tuned in to see them as a duo. They have this whole mythology on the show about witnesses, how they have a shared fate. And then they pretty much, in this season finale, crashed and burned their own mythology because they killed Abby, but they didn't get rid of Ichabod Crane, even though the whole point of the show was supposed to be on some, I'm a bird, you're a bird, you go where I go, our fates are intertwined, you know. And a lot of people have been saying, and I agree, that these genre shows, Fangirl Janine, or Jeanne, I think it might be Jeanne, Fangirl Jeanne, hopefully you see this and you leave a comment and you correct me. She put a really interesting tweet that said, you know, a lot of these shows, Sleepy Hollow, The 100, Teen Wolf, a lot of these shows resent, you know, their diverse fan base. They resent their diverse cast. A lot of these producers and these writers and these showrunners that are majority white resent the fact that they feel like they have to pander, you know, to people of color. They resent the fact that they feel like, well, we have to have diversity. But so basically they start off strong with these diverse casts, and then once the viewers are there, the viewership is there, the ratings are there, the fans are there, then they get rid of them. It's a bait and switch, right? They bait you in with the diverse cast, and then they switch it up on you. They get rid of them. They sideline them. I'm a huge Teen Wolf fan. I think I've talked about this before. I'm a huge, huge, huge Teen Wolf fan. The second half of season 3, they sidelined Scott, who is the motherfucking Teen Wolf, you know, for Styles, for this. Now, mind you, I liked the storyline, if any of you watch Teen Wolf, I liked the storyline about Void Styles and how Styles is kind of like going crazy a little bit. But I remember the promos for it had Styles in the front and Scott on one side and Allison on the other side. And I remember thinking, like, but Scott is supposed to be the lead. Like, Scott is the Teen Wolf. Like, why is... And Scott and Allison were going through their own shit too, but instead they sidelined them. They sidelined the lead, Scott, Tyler Posey, on his own show for Dylan O'Brien, white male. And I also get that Dylan O'Brien is blowing up because of the Maze Runner, and he's been doing a lot of really interesting things, so maybe they feel like he's more recognizable. But still, there's a pattern of, you know, you lure in an audience with a diverse cast, you bait and switch them. And the thing that's interesting to me is that it's basically, to me, it's like racism, because this is all racist. Racism is more important than ratings. Racism is more important than money. Racism is more important than the well-being of your show. Because as soon as these writers and these showrunners and these producers deviate from what made the show a hit in the first place, which we're seeing more and more, that it's a diverse cast, like people want to see diverse casts. People are sick of seeing the same old white faces over and over, and that goes for white women as well as white men. Like, we're sick of seeing white women and white men in genre fiction and speculative fiction and sci-fi and fantasy. We've been seeing white women and white men forever, you know, since the 70s, you know, since Sigourney Weaver and Alien in 1975, and since Luke Skywalker and Star Wars. You know, we've been seeing white people as the face of genre fiction, and we're sick of it, and we're ready for more diverse stories, and we're ready for true representation of the way the world really looks. And we're, you know, and you see these genre shows like Teen Wolf, like Sleepy Hollow, like The 100, that they start off strong with these diverse casts, and then they say, you know, it's like they say, like, well, oh, now we don't need you anymore, so we're going to get rid of you. And then what happens? The show goes off the rails, and the ratings drop, or the shows get canceled, and it's like they're not learning. They're still operating under this model, which I talked about in my Shea Moisture video, which I will be making a Shea Moisture part 2, because they back with some new bullshit. Just like I said in my Shea Moisture video, you have these people that are operating on this outdated model of, white is right, and you have to cater to the white fan base above all else, because no one else watches TV, or no one else buys books, or no one else, pays money, for entertainment or for hair products. And it's like, no, like, you have the data, you have the statistics, you have the ratings, you have the numbers right there in front of you, showing you that diversity is what fucking pays. And yet you're still so ingrained in your racism and in your belief that whiteness is supposed to be the norm and the standard and the face of everything, that you willing to like keep shooting your hit shows in the foot and angering your fan bases and fucking up your shows just so you can like get the people of color off your show, just so you can get the black people off your show, And getting back to Fangirl, I think it's Jeanne. I always read Janine in my mind, but I think it might actually be Jeanne. Getting back to her tweet, I thought it was really interesting that she used the word resent. Like, there's a resentment. Like, these white producers and writers and showrunners resent the fact that they have to have people of color on their shows. They resent the fact that they have to write for us. They resent the fact that a lot of people have said that the Sleepy Hollow producers and writers and showrunners resented the fact that they had a large black female following specifically. And I also think that a lot of that has to do with not wanting to be known as a black show, not wanting to be associated with black women, not wanting to be, like, oh, we don't want those kind of fans. We don't want that kind of fan base. That's not the demographic that we were going for with our show. And that's steeped, again, in racism and an idea in the othering of black people and the othering of black women as viewers, in this idea and these ingrained stereotypes and unconscious biases, and that say that, 3 or more black people on your show and it's a black show. Now it's no longer a normal show or a genre show or a spec fic show. It's a black show, And this idea of like, we don't want our product associated with blackness. Again, motherfucking Shea Moisture, I'm coming for you in the next video, because y'all on that shit too, of not wanting your product to be associated with blackness. And the reason why you don't want your products to be associated with blackness, and black women specifically, and people of color overall, and diversity, is because you, even if you don't want to admit it, you feel like black people are lesser, that we are inferior, that we are not the norm, that we are not the standard, and that you do not want us associated with your precious show, even though we're the ones that made your fucking show a hit. Even though black women are the ones that made your show a hit, Sleepy Hollow. Even though people of color that were tuning in to watch a Hispanic Latino lead on Teen Wolf, and then later on an East Asian love interest in Kira, they're the ones that made your show a hit, Teen Wolf. Even though those diverse audiences are the people that made your show a hit, The 100, because people want to see themselves represented. But you still are operating under this faulty ass premise that everything has to revolve around whiteness, when literally everything numbers show otherwise. And it's really just straight up racism. Like, it's straight up racism. And it's really a willingness to shoot your own shows in the foot and mistreat your characters of color because you don't think they have value, because you're racist, because you think only white characters have value. And that's just what it boils down to, like, oh, well, it's just business, white people sell. It's not business, and it's not even true. It's racist bullshit. And we see over and over, like, we've seen over and over, writers and producers and showrunners motherfucking tank their own shows. Person of Interest, where they got rid of Taraji, and then their show tanked. Twisted, which I know a lot of people liked. I never saw it, which originally started out with a black female lead that people loved, who they then sidelined for some bullshit ass story featuring some white girl that then got canceled. Like, they're willing to tank their hit shows to uphold this white supremacist, ideals and concepts of white people as the norm and the standard and genre. It's really crazy. Like, it's really crazy. Like, it's really amazing to see it. especially like a show like Sleepy Hollow, which like was such a hit show and like had so many fans and had such great ratings and was making so much money and had this like amazing chemistry with this like cast and was getting these like rave reviews. And then they were like, you know what? We're just gonna cancel all that shit and bring in all these white people because we know what you guys really want to see are white people, and we really don't want y'all black women watching our show because y'all not the type of demographic we want. Go back to watching Love and Hip Hop because we all know that's what y'all niggas really like. Like, no, like we have varied interests just like anyone else, and we're watching your fucking show. Like, what the hell? And they treated Nicole so terrible. They didn't invite her to do the season 2 DVD commentary. Like, for a long time, they've been treating her like a second-class citizen on her own show where she's the lead, you know, and they've been thumbing their noses at the fans. They've been thumbing their noses at the fan base. They've been doing a real fuck you to the fans on social media, Tumblr, Twitter, and writing these bullshit-ass plots that revolve around these white people and sidelining all the fucking people of color. And now people are trying to get your show canceled. You talking about, oh, we're going to come back season 4. You know, we had to kill Abby Mills so that we could shake things up and come back season 4 strong with a new storyline. Like, no, now they're trying to get your show canceled, bitch. They're trying to get your show fucking canceled. Like, because you're racist. Because it's racist. It's, you know, like you resent having to write for us, having to include characters that look like us. It's a shakeup of the way that things have been in Hollywood forever, and you resent it, and you don't want to do it, and you don't want us associated with your projects, so you literally shoot the projects in the foot rather than have black people and black women specifically and other people of color associated with your show because you're racist assholes. Like, that's just the end all and be all of the shit, you know? And it's really sending a message, again, that like black people, black women specifically, that we do not belong in genre fiction, that we do not belong in speculative fiction, that we do not belong in fantasy, that we did not exist, that we should not be there, that we need to stay in our little box, stay in our little narrative that white people can understand, and we do not come out of that, you know? And it's just really, really interesting, again, to witness the resentment that they have towards us when we putting money in your pocket because we're watching your fuck ass show, right? Like, come on. Like, you know? And Nicole Behari was the lead. How you gonna say that she's the expendable on her damn show because she's black and a woman? And they constantly show us who's expendable, who doesn't make it to through the apocalypse, who's not gonna be there after the zombies come, you know? Even The Walking Dead, which had there can only be one rule when it comes to black men, has a better record right now. Like, because they learned, because they listened to their fandom and they are learning. Come on. It's ridiculous. It's mad funny to me. So, that's what I have to say about getting the sidelining, well, not sidelining because they killed her ass. They got rid of fucking Nicole Behari, Abby Mills on Sleepy Hollow. It boils down to racism. It boils down to misogynoir as well, that sweet spot where racism and sexism intersect, because white women are allowed in genre. Black women, oh no. Oh no, no, no. We are not allowed in genre because of our blackness, because our blackness impacts our gender in a way that means we are not viable in speculative fiction and in genre. And that's something that white women also really don't seem to understand when they're talking about like, oh, well, you should just be happy that women are up on a screen. Like, no, I'm not white. And my race is what means that I don't see myself represented consistently, you know, consistently. Black women are told we belong in a certain place. Black people overall are told we belong in a certain place, but black women specifically are told we belong in a certain place and that we don't belong in a certain place. And that is what Sleepy Hollow said to Abby Mills. You don't belong here. We don't care what the ratings say. We don't care what the critics say. We don't care what the fans say, what the numbers say, how much money you put in our pocket. We're going to treat you like shit until you leave. And then we're going to give you the worst writing off ever. We're going to kill your ass off. We're not even going to give you a funeral. We're going to get rid of our whole mythology saying that your destiny is intertwined with Ichabod Crane's. And we're just going to say, bye, bitch. We're going to say that your whole purpose was to move him forward, which I've talked about in my Daredevil video. in speculative fiction, it is too common of a trope, really in all genres, but speculative fiction specifically, it is too common of a trope that Black people and POC characters are used to further, you know, the plot lines of white characters. We're used as chess pieces on a board, pawns. We don't get to have our own storylines and agency. They reduce us to moving a white character forward. Again, fuck you, Jessica Jones, because they do the same motherfucking thing. And it's just like, it's absurd. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And it's so blatant and obvious and transparent at this point. Like, this is not about Nicole mysteriously, magically wanting to leave, so they wrote her off. No, it's about the treatment of Black people and Black women specifically in genre and in speculative fiction, and the resentment that these shows have towards us, and this idea that we don't belong there, and they don't want us, and they don't want us attached to their shows. And they're willing to shoot themselves in the foot and kill their own shows. It's crazy. It's really crazy. So that's what I think about that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. There will be links in the description box because this made a lot of buzz. So food for thought as always. See you guys next time. Peace.